wetlands rules. I think there was in your executive order on housing, it sort of alleviated some of the buffer zone. I think there was language attached to the miscellaneous A&R bill that didn't get over the finish line. What do you see as the impact being?
Yeah, that will hurt the whole process. Charles is here. Maybe you could expand upon that.
Yeah, thank you, Calvin. Oh. Thanks. Great. Thank you, Calvin. I think you're probably bringing this up in the context of Representative Bouton's amendment attempt on H632. That's our agency's miscellaneous bill. We put those forward every year. His amendment would have essentially throttled down some wetlands protections in less than 3% of the state. Notably, it would have helped Barrie at the Prospect Heights development add 30 more units. Wetlands provide water storage. That's an essential function. The attempted amendment by Representative Bouton would have had a minimal environmental detrimental impact, and I think that's kind of where we're at this point. What's in the greater interest of the public good, and I think that amendment probably would have been in the greater interest of the public good. I think I'm also pretty concerned about a precedent where no miscellaneous agency bill can move forward if it's germane to wetlands. This is the second year in a row where we've had our miscellaneous bill tabled because it was germane to wetlands and the body wasn't willing to vote on the amendments. So that's really where my primary concern in this conversation around his amendment attempt lies.
And a follow-up maybe for the governor. My understanding is the Flood Safety Act, which I believe you let go into law without your signature, I think, sets into motion more protections and a framework in where we want to encourage wetlands and development away from the wetlands. How do you square that law's passage with your concerns about housing and affordability?
You can clean it up after.
Okay.
You can have both. There are areas, there are wetlands that should never be built in. I think that's where some get confused because some have said, well, you just want to open up everything to all the development and you're going to just be building in all the wetlands. That's just not the case. There are some that are on the fringes, and just because of what qualifies as a wetland determines whether it is really a wetland or not. But from our standpoint, I think we've struck the balance, and I believe that with what we have promoted, that we could have both more development, less stringent wetlands rules, and get what we need in terms of housing.
Yeah, I think it's important to note that both the governor's EO and Representative Bouton's amendment would have implicated only municipal areas where we're trying to concentrate development and not develop on the periphery. I think also notably within the miscellaneous bill that was tabled was date pushes for Act 121, so those would have went forward if this bill had gone forward. And the reason the agency was interested in those is just to ensure that the public is properly communicated to for all of the potential impacts on development in river corridors. We really don't want to repeat an Act 181 scenario, so we want a little bit of time to make sure that works for the public.
What really, the last question, what happened here? Why didn't this make crossover, in your opinion?
I would strongly encourage you to speak to majority leadership on that. I think it was probably to avoid a vote record on something that might have been supportive of housing, and the majority may have voted against. That's me speculating, though, and you should certainly speak to leadership.